Let's do it. Hello everyone, and welcome to Understandable English. Today I'm continuing my travel series about different trips that I've taken around the world so that you can learn English and learn about the world at the same time. I have already done some other episodes about places in Russia as well as Armenia, so you can check those out on my profile as well. This is part 3 of 3 because it was such a long trip. Upon returning back to the city, I got food poisoning again, and I don't know what happened, but it happened, and I spent perhaps the worst day of my life in a train station because it was the only place that I could find that I could sit in for a while. And after I started to feel just a little bit better, I got a ticket to go further just so that I could sleep in the train overnight. And I just want to apologize to, I think they were Italians next to me on that train, because I definitely was not the cleanest and best smelling man that could have been a neighbor in their train car. So I just want to say I'm sorry if those people happen to see this video, but I'm not sure if they do. The destination of this train was Irkutsk, which is a city not far from the famous lake Baikal. And I spent just a little bit of time in Irkutsk exploring because my main goal was to get to Baikal. And in Irkutsk, the market was nice. I liked it. It was very, I guess you'd say, chaotic and not very stale. There were some souvenirs you could get, but also some food and some other delicious things to try. I tried these dried pine cones, I guess you'd call them, and they tasted very interesting, very different than anything I'd ever tried before. And they also had this sweet pine cone jam, which I tried and was wonderful. Irkutsk has some older wooden buildings, like in Tomsk, but I would say that Tomsk probably takes care of them better. But after my short time in Irkutsk, I continued on towards Baikal, in a small village of Listvyanka. This is in the southern part of Baikal. I had already been to the northern part in the winter, and winter Baikal, of course, is something magical. It's snowy, but the wind blows the snow from the ice, and so in the late winter, you can ice skate on these massive cracked pieces of ice that are just beautiful, and you can look through, see the bottom of the lake. It is an unforgettable experience, and I recommend any person who has the opportunity to visit Baikal in the winter, they should definitely do it. But I was there in the summer, so it was a bit of a different experience, and Listvyanka was completely touristy. It was expensive, and I felt like a piece of meat. As I walked along the street, everyone wanted to sell me something. Everyone wanted to give me a tour, which just ended up being an expensive thing to spend your money on. And so, I don't know, I think that this place has a lot of potential to be an interesting place as a center of tourism in the area, but it was not a lot of fun for me, just being there on a budget. But being on the lake, there were fish everywhere. People would catch the fish and they would smoke the fish. So as you walked around this village, all you could smell was smoked fish and you just wanted to eat and eat and eat. It was wonderful. In general, Baikal is beautiful. The water is quite cold and it's very clear, so you can see these beautiful rocks in the bottom. And around it, it's a very kind of rocky, foresty, a little bit of a mountain, but not quite kind of shore. And so it's quite a beautiful thing to hike around and walk around. There's a big trail that just recently opened that goes from Listvyanka up towards the north, which I did not get to hike on, but I heard that it's wonderful, so I'd recommend it to anyone who is going to be in that area. There is also the old Baikal Railway, which is no longer used for actual trains other than for tourist sakes. You can buy a ticket on this train as a tourist, but I wanted to save my money, so I just walked along the railroad, and you can explore the shore of Baikal. You can see some tunnels. It was quite a nice experience. But if you're going to Baikal in the winter, I would recommend you find a place to stay or a place to live beforehand, because I tried to, as we say, wing it or do it at the time. And the only thing that was open for me was some very strange lady's house, and there was no water in the house. The bathroom was outside, so in the winter when it's minus 30 degrees, it's not very fun to go to the bathroom outside. And yes, I'd recommend finding a place to live beforehand. But after Baikal, I had to pick up the pace or go a bit faster, because I found out that after COVID, this is still 2021, but a lot of restrictions were around for COVID, that the borders were opening and I could finally go home to visit my parents for the first time in 2 years. So I decided to speed up my trip so I had time before September when my work would start again. So I visited Ulan-Ude, which I don't want to offend anyone who lives there, but to me it was one of the most sad and depressing cities I had seen on my whole trip. Of course, the center was quite nice and well organized, but if you took one step out of the center, it was overgrown and muddy dirt roads. It was just not a fun place to visit. But outside of the city, there was a huge complex of Buddhist temples, which was interesting to visit. I do not have a lot of knowledge about that side of the world, and so to me it was interesting to get a glimpse of what is happening in the Buddhist world. Next up was the city of Chita, and this is an interesting city because as you approach the city in the car, you don't see anything. It's just nothing because this part of Siberia is quite empty. And then suddenly you have a city, as if someone just decided here there should be a city, and that's it. So the city kind of comes out of nowhere, and I guess you could say it feels that way in the city as well, though there were still some interesting things to see. There was this sculpture park in the center, an old wooden church where the Decembrists went when they were sent there on exile from St. Petersburg. But the thing that I noticed most about Chita was there were a lot of musicians on the street. And a lot of them were very young. And so I asked one of them about this, and he said that, well, the salaries here are much lower, so it's actually much better just to learn an instrument and make money playing music on the street than it is to work a full job. Now, I heard that there was some interesting nature in this part of Siberia near Chita, but I did not get a chance to explore it because I was in a hurry. But I hope to maybe one day go back and explore it. After Chita, there was this long, again, nothingness on my way to Khabarovsk, which was an interesting city. It was small, relatively cute and green, and it seemed like quite a nice, calm place to raise a family, but I'm not sure that as a young person that would be the place for me to be. But it was good enough to walk around for a day or two and to explore. When I was there, the river was very, very high, so the entire embankment where normally you could walk was underwater, which was interesting to see. Across the river, you could see China, which was also interesting for me. I'd never seen China before, so it was fun to wave across the river to China. And finally, my last stop on this whole long, nearly 3-month-long trip was Vladivostok, which is the city of the Russian Navy, I guess you could say, in this part of the world. It is full of bridges and full of cats and these rocky beaches. You can go across the bridge to Russian Island, as it's called, and do some hiking, wade across the low tide to go visit some islands. And it was quite an interesting place to be. Though when I was there, it was hot and humid and not very pleasant weather. Though if you wanted to swim in the beach, it seemed to be right on, but there was no sun, so it was kind of a strange beach day. This part of Russia, they call it the Primorsky Krai, or the Primorsky region, is very interesting. There's so much to do, and I didn't get to spend much more than, I think, 6 days there. And so I would love to go back and explore it some more because there's so much to see and so much to do. But other than that, that pretty much is the end of my big Trans-Siberian, Trans-Russian adventure across everything. I think it's good to emphasize the fact that Russia is such a diverse place, both with people, with nature, and things to see and things to do. Russia is not just Moscow or St. Petersburg or that western side, which is often seen in the internet or in films or in the news. If you have made it this far, then thank you for watching. Feel free to share with your friends so they can learn English and learn a little bit about Russia as well. If you learned something new, feel free to press like, subscribe, and as always, have a wonderful day. Toodles.